the all-seeing eye, an ancient Egyptian symbol that, today, has found itself on everything from the US dollar bill to countless Hollywood movies. Although the use of this symbol has skyrocketed in modern times, its origin and meaning remain shrouded in obscurity for the vast majority of people who are exposed to it daily. How did this enigmatic symbol come to such widespread use, while its meaning remained a widespread riddle? Where did this symbol come from? What is its meaning? And why is its use rising? The first use of the all-seeing eye appears in ancient Egypt, more than 4,000 years ago. During those times, the all-seeing eye was associated with 3 separate gods of Egyptian mythology. The first of these deities is Ra, who was both a sun god and a creator god. Most of the stories of Egyptian mythology either relate to him or those in his bloodline. Ra, according to Egyptian myth, is the creator of mankind and also ruled over the gods. He is typically described and depicted as the aging king. One of the stories, relevant to the study of the all-seeing eye, relates to a time in human history where mankind was growing rebellious to the rule of the gods, and even began to plot against the aging king Ra. Upon hearing the news that his favored creation was scheming against him, he grew wrathful and unleashes a superweapon of sorts upon mankind. Her name was Sekhmet. Sekhmet, sometimes called Hathor, is the second solar deity connected with the all-seeing eye. She was a powerful goddess, which became the sun god's mighty weapon. Sekhmet came upon humanity in a whirlwind of devastation and carnage. The streets ran red with blood, and none, not even the sun god, could stop her. Regretting his decision, and fearing the complete annihilation of mankind, Ra decided that the blood-drenched goddess must be stopped. So he schemed to end her rampage by getting her drunk with beer made to look like blood. Wadjet is yet another name of this goddess, but it is also the original name for the all-seeing eye. The eye is associated with a third Egyptian god named Horus. The stories told about Horus mainly relate to his quest for revenge against his evil uncle, another god named Set. Set, who is the Egyptian god of storms and darkness, killed Horus's father Osiris and illegitimately took Osiris's throne. Horus, the son of Osiris and rightful heir to the throne, found himself in danger and exiled. In one of the many battles between Horus and his uncle Set, Horus had his left eye gouged out. In some Egyptian accounts, it was the right eye of Horus that was gouged out. The all-seeing eye, often called the Eye of Horus, was not only a symbol for the deity himself, but a symbol of protection and well-being. Horus, similar to Sekhmet, is a deity associated with combat and war. After the fall of the great Egyptian civilization, the all-seeing eye fell out of visibility. Thousands of years go by before this archaic symbol once more re-emerges as the logo for a secret society founded in southern Germany called the Illuminati. The Illuminati, founded in May of 1776 by a law professor named Adam Weishaupt, functioned both as a network of spies and a mystic occult order. It was the expressed purpose of the Illuminati to confound and uproot religion and many of Europe's monarchies. The activities of this secret society, however, involved more than espionage and political intrigue. Its inner doctrines, and the order as a whole, had a mystic and spiritual side. The philosophy of the Illuminati included theurgic magic and was heavily rooted in the Hebrew Kabbalah. Theurgic magic, more commonly known as alchemy, is magic directed towards the self, where the magician uses ritual to increase his intellectual and psychic powers while moving up the alchemical grades of initiation. The Kabbalah is a set of ancient Jewish texts that describe the nature of reality, the rulers of the many dimensions, and a general roadmap of those dimensions called the Tree of Life. Below this Tree of Life, in mirrored formation, lies another tree, sometimes called the Qliphoth, also known as the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. The public face of the Illuminati preached goodwill and brotherhood for all men, and submitted to the world that religion and national borders were roadblocks to world peace and the brotherhood of humanity. Some who rejected invitations to join the Illuminati saw the organization in a much more sinister light. John Robison, who was a member of a Freemasonic lodge in Scotland, was one of those critics. Mr. Robison, who himself was a professor in philosophy, claimed that he was approached and offered membership into the Illuminati secret society. What he soon discovered about the Illuminati troubled him dearly, propelling him to author an exposé on the group. His book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, published in 1778, details his experience within the outer circles of the Illuminati secret society. John Robison claimed that some members of the Illuminati had openly boasted that the true ambition and destiny of their organization was to quote-unquote rule the world. He goes on to state that the inner teachings had more to do with the magic and the occult than with politics. He further details how the Illuminati had begun to infiltrate and recruit from Masonic lodges throughout Europe. In his book, John notes how the members of Freemasonry are rarely Masons by profession, and that many individuals who desired to join Freemasonry were after knowledge of a more occult nature. In the introduction of his book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, Professor Robison says,
I have observed these doctrines gradually diffusing and mixing with all the different systems of Freemasonry, till, at last, an association had been formed for the express purpose of rooting out all the religious establishments and overturning all the existing governments of Europe. I have seen this association exerting itself zealously and systematically, till it has become almost irresistible.
Later in his book's introduction, he remarks,
And when we see that the methods which were practiced by this association for the express purpose of breaking all of the bands of society were employed solely in order that the leaders might rule the world with uncontrollable power, while all the rest, even the associated, will be degraded in their own estimation, corrupted in their principles, and employed as mere tools of the ambition of their unknown superiors.
Mr. Robison even sent his book to the first and former President of the United States, George Washington. In Washington's reply to Robison regarding the claims of his book, the former president says,
It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am. The idea that I meant to convey was that I did not believe that the lodges of Freemasonry in this country had, as societies, endeavored to propagate the diabolical tenets of the first, or the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible of separation.
Of course, Washington could little argue with Robison's assertions, since, in 1782, the very same symbol Adam Weishaupt chose to represent the Illuminati became part of America's great national seal. Further, in 1789, the all-seeing eye also appeared in France's Declaration of Human Rights, which is similar to America's Bill of Rights. In 1934, President Franklin D. Roosevelt was approached by America's Secretary of Agriculture to have the nation's Great Seal placed on one of America's monetary coins. Roosevelt embraced the idea, but decided that the seal should instead be placed on the back of the $1 bill, and there it remains to this day. Those who are engaged in Satanism also make heavy use of the all-seeing eye. Instead of associating the eye with the Egyptian gods Horus, Ra, and Sekhmet, these black magicians refer to the all-seeing eye as the Eye of Set. Set, as stated previously, is the Egyptian god of storms and darkness. Despite the fact that Egyptian mythology never associates the all-seeing eye with the Egyptian god Set, modern black magicians do. The Egyptian god Set is, in the eyes of Satanists, the very same entity as Satan from the Bible. They claim that Set is simply another name for the dark lord of the underworld that Christians speak of, to such the extent that one of the most famous satanic churches is called the Temple of Set. The Roman god Saturn is yet another mythological deity that they closely relate to the being that Christians call Satan. So, predictably, the all-seeing eye is featured in countless books relating to Satanism and black magic. The symbolic interpretation of the pyramid which often surrounds the eye is also a repeating theme among occultists. The first of these interpretations is that of the Trinity, which is the Father, the Mother, and the Son. The second interpretation is that of the infernal Trinity, who is the dragon, the whore, and the beast. The third symbolic interpretation of the pyramid is that of a phallic symbol. A phallic symbol is something that symbolizes the male generative principle. You see, in the occult, an upward pointing triangle is a symbol of the magical element fire, and fire represents the male principle. Aleister Crowley, easily the most famous black magician, made numerous references to the all-seeing eye as the Eye of Set, or the Eye of Satan, and repeatedly associated both the sun and the eye with Satan. In his book, Magic in Theory and Practice, he states,
Satan, thou eye, thou lust, cry aloud, whirl the wheel, O my father, O Satan, O son. Sabaoth, being by number 70, is a name of Aen, the eye, and the devil our Lord, and the goat of Mendes. He is the Lord of the Sabbath of the Adepts, and is Satan, therefore also the Son, whose number of magic is 666, the seal of his servant, the beast.
Michael W. Ford, easily one of the most prolific black magic writers today, is even more open and blatant about the true meaning of the sun and the all-seeing eye. In his books, he remarks,
The sun is also associated with the adversarial triad, being Shaitan, Typhon, Apophis, and Bets, a god of transformation. The devil, as an initiatory force, is considered masculine, thus is represented by the phallus, or source of creative life. In the tarot, the devil is attributed to Capricornus, and the Hebrew letter Ayin, being an eye. The demiurge Saturnus is related to the number 666, being that of Sarath, or the sun. Satanus is this aspect in one form of the adversary, being rebellion, death, and chaos from stasis. The very force of the sun is in the eye of Saturnus. In the name and mark of the devil, whom I swear my spirit unto, I am myself the Redeemer and bringer of the infernal pact, which holds no bounds, nor mortal strain, yet my desires shall be filled by the eye within the blackened triangle. Symbolically, the averse pentagram represents the essence of the Egyptian god of darkness and storms, Set. Set, Set-on, is the opposing force of darkness, but intelligence and isolate consciousness. To be Set-like is to be individual, will-driven, and balanced. The center of the averse pentagram is called the Eye of Set, or the Eye of Satan, the adversary.
Until quite recently, the $1 bill and various resources associated with Freemasonry and black magic were the only venues the all-seeing eye had. And then, something happened. Use of this once guarded symbol skyrocketed, despite the fact that its meaning remains veiled to the masses. It appears as the logo of the American Total Information Awareness Office, Great Britain's famous MI5, cathedrals, and of course, Freemasonry. The all-seeing eye has also undergone a pop culture explosion and, as of 40 years ago, has appeared in more than 30 major films and television shows. What we see is simply a series of movies and TV shows that all, in some way or another, contain this enigmatic symbol. But how is this symbol used? And is its use in movies and television programs consistent with Egyptian mythology or modern-day Satanists? Perhaps by examining the context in which the all-seeing eye is used, we may glean some wisdom regarding the meaning of this ancient symbol. The most common use of the all-seeing eye in movies associates the symbol with the villain, and the most glaring example is the cartoon TV series Minority. Minority is a Cartoon Network television show about a group of minority superheroes comprised of a black guy, a Jew, a Mexican, an Indian, and a wheelchair-bound Chinese guy. The villain of the show, a man called White Shadow, has a pyramid for a head. The White Shadow, together with his racist gang, make a career out of attacking and defaming minorities. The heroes of the show, the Minority, usually thwart the evil plans of the White Shadow. The show is loaded with racist jokes and innuendos. The pyramid and all-seeing eye are blatantly expressed on the face of the central villain.
How many times are we going to use snakes to try to kill non-stop? Anyone? I have to say, in my professional opinion, money-wise, bang for the buck-wise, snakes have to absolutely be the worst way to kill people.
Great.
Gargoyles is a Disney cartoon series about a group of crime-fighting gargoyles that fight crime by night and become stone statues by day. In one episode, an FBI agent becomes obsessed with exposing a powerful secret society called the Illuminati. In the television show, it is alleged that the Illuminati always have a membership of 666 people, and even the United States President is in the pocket of this secretive group. Even though most of the people in his circle consider his investigation to be a wild goose chase, he persists with his investigative pursuit until he finally confirms the group's existence. In Gargoyles, the all-seeing eye and pyramid are directly associated with the villainous Illuminati.
Mace Malone vanished, over 70 years ago, and is probably dead. Even if you did figure out what happened to him, how would that prove this all-powerful Illuminati society of yours really exists?
Thanks to you, the Illuminati had the goods to cut themselves in. They've been organized crime's silent partner ever since.
Young man, how long have you been plagued by these fanciful delusions?
Not as long as you've had this tattoo.
The Handmaid's Tale takes place in an alternate reality in a country called Gilead. In the movie, the country has become a theocratic police state that has been ravaged by poisons that has left the female population mostly infertile. The small sliver of women who are still fertile, called handmaids, have been gathered to a camp where they are assigned the task of bearing children. The government of the country, who is under attack by a growing rebellion, has for its emblem an all-seeing eye and pyramid. In the 2009 movie Angels and Demons, a writer and researcher named Robert Langdon is asked by the Roman Catholic Church to investigate a series of disappearances perpetrated by an organization who called itself the Illuminati. In the story, the Illuminati intend on destroying the Vatican by detonating an antimatter bomb. The conspirators leave a trail of clues that eventually allow Robert, played by Tom Hanks, to discover the location of the bomb before it is exploded. While exploring one of the many breadcrumbs left for Tom Hanks, he enters an underground passage where the pentagram is adorned with an all-seeing eye at its center. Film From Hell, Johnny Depp plays Frederick Aberline, an opium-smoking inspector asked to investigate a series of gruesome murders that has the citizens of London in an uproar. As the movie progresses, it becomes clear that Frederick Aberline's investigation is being impeded by local Freemasons who occupy much of London's positions of power. One of Frederick's opium-induced visions reveals that the Jack the Ripper murders are somehow tied to the Freemasons, and it is here where the viewer is exposed to the all-seeing eye. In the Simpsons episode Homer the Great from Season 6, Homer becomes intrigued and obsessed with a secret society called the Stonecutters. After failing to gain membership on his own, he discovers that his father is a member of the Stonecutters, and this finally affords him an opportunity for entry into the group. Homer discovers that members of the Stonecutters have privileges above the average Springfield citizen. In this episode, the Stonecutters, who are obviously modeled after the Freemasons, sing a song declaring the many conspiracies they are engaged in. During one of the secret society's many ceremonies, Homer is discovered bearing a mark suggesting that he is in fact the long-awaited chosen one. The members of the Stonecutters proclaim that Homer is in fact a god in human form. Homer begins to guide the efforts of the Stonecutters away from sophomoric mischief and towards philanthropic pursuits. Homer's newly acquired subjects become quickly discontented with the acts of charity Homer proposes, and embarks on creating a new secret society founded upon the principles of disallowing Homer's membership. The episode depicts the all-seeing eye as a major symbol for the Stonecutter secret society. In this full-length Tom and Jerry cartoon, Tom and Jerry enter a race in order to win a mansion. The villain of the movie, a ratings whore Hollywood producer named Glob Wobbler, continues to extend the finish line of the race because the event is bringing in huge television ratings. At the beginning of the movie, Glob Wobbler is summoned by the quote-unquote president of Hollywood and respond by putting on hats of pyramids with a single eye on top as they fall to their knees. The president of Hollywood, who is later seen holding a staff with the all-seeing eye on it, insists that Hollywood must appeal to the lowest of man's base instincts. At the end of the movie, Glob Wobbler has a change of heart and is determined to put good, wholesome fun back into Hollywood programming. The president of Hollywood, Biff Buzzard, instantly appears and vaporizes Mr. Glob Wobbler.
Hollywood is going to stand for morality, wholesomeness, good, clean family entertainment.
What's gotten into him? We can't have that kind of attitude in Hollywood.
Any Given Sunday is about a professional football team called the Miami Sharks that is slowly falling apart. Injuries, along with discipline and management problems, are shaking the core of the franchise. After an inspirational saga, wrought with inner turmoil and subplots, the team finally starts to get their act together. The last opponent the Miami Sharks face in the movie is the Dallas Knights. The Dallas football team have for their logo an all-seeing eye and a sun. The movie contains a rather perplexing scene where one of the Dallas players loses an eye in the form and fashion of a button ejected from a t-shirt following a large meal. And during this scene, the pyramid and all-seeing eye are flashed on the screen a number of times. Suspiria is a 1977 film about a ballet school that is more than it seems. The story surrounds an American girl named Susie who joins a famous European ballet school. Through a series of bizarre events that begin the moment she arrived at the school, Susie begins to delve deeper into the school's past and present members and comes to learn that the ballet school was originally founded as a witches' coven. She would later come upon a hidden chamber within the school where the school teachers are performing a ritual. Similar to the plot of many vampire movies, the main character kills the head witch, instantly subjecting the lesser witches to the same fate. The all-seeing eye in this movie is seen within that hidden ritual chamber. El Topo is an absurd 70s movie that was meant to be surrealist and artsy, but succeeds only in being stupid. El Topo is about a traveling gunman and his many pointless adventures in a Salvador Dali-inspired Wild West setting. At the end of this pointless and pathetic tale, El Topo, which means the mole, becomes the champion of a group of freaks and cripples and goes on to battle an evil cult which rules a nearby town. The symbol for this cult is the all-seeing eye within a pyramid. Batman Returns, the second movie in the modern Batman series, is about Batman versus the Penguin. In the film, the Penguin has revealed himself to the people of Gotham City after spending a lifetime living in the sewers. Gotham becomes enchanted by the Penguin, and soon the Penguin and another villain named Max Schreck begin planning the Penguin's mayoral rise to power. By the end, the Penguin betrays Schreck, and Batman defeats the Penguin and his army. In a scene where Batman is attending a masquerade ball of Gotham's elite, the all-seeing eye and pyramid are seen on a turban worn by Max Schreck. In desperately seeking Susan, a pent-up housewife named Roberta becomes obsessed with an adventurous floozy named Susan, played by Madonna. After a bit of stalking and a bump on the head that causes her amnesia, she unwittingly assumes Susan's identity. Roberta is immediately mistaken for the real Susan, not because Roberta acts similar or bears resemblance to Susan, but because in the course of taking Susan's identity, Roberta also began wearing Susan's jacket. This rather unique jacket has, on its back, an all-seeing eye and pyramid identical to the one that graces the US $1 bill. Roberta discovers that the woman whose identity she has taken has a criminal reputation, and because it never occurs to Roberta to take the damn jacket off, she continues to find herself mistrusted, expelled, and hunted by the people she encounters. Watchmen is about a disbanded group of superheroes who are brought back together when they discover that they are being targeted by someone who knows their true identity. Rorschach, a superhero who continued to fight crime after the Watchmen organization was disbanded, stays firmly on the trail of these recent assassinations. Near the end of the movie, a terrible revelation is made as the remaining Watchmen find out that one of their own, a former Watchmen superhero named Ozymandias, has betrayed his friends and is behind the murders, and also intends to conduct a major terrorist attack where millions will die. This villain, Ozymandias, is obsessed with Egyptian motifs, including pyramids, and wears an all-seeing eye on his belt. A Scanner Darkly is about a dystopic future where America is a police state, and many people are addicted to an epidemic street drug named Substance D. Although it is claimed that Substance D is being manufactured in foreign countries and shipped to America, the viewer and the movie's main character, Robert Arctor, eventually learn that the plants used to make Substance D are being grown by the very organization who claims to be fighting Substance D addiction. At the beginning of the film, the all-seeing eye in Pyramid is seen on the t-shirt of a character played by Robert Downey Jr. This character betrays his friends and is a heavy user of Substance D himself. The movie Hackers is about a group of hackers who are framed for a cybercrime they didn't commit. The villain of the movie, who absolutely insists on being called the Plague, has created a computer virus that will cause chaos and is designed to embezzle millions of dollars. In the movie, the all-seeing eye in Pyramid is seen for just a moment when the hero of the movie is sent a recorded message from the villain.
Well, let me explain the New World Order. Governments and corporations need people like you and me. We are samurai, the keyboard cowboys, and all those other people out there who have no idea what's going on are the cattle.
Conan the Barbarian is about a warrior named Conan, whose family was killed by the movie's villain, Thulsa Doom. The villain, played by James Earl Jones, is repeatedly associated with the Egyptian god Set. In the film, it is said that Thulsa Doom is 1,000 years old and the leader of many snake cults. Similar to the story of Horus spoke of earlier, Conan, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, goes on a quest to avenge his father's murder. Not only is Thulsa Doom associated with Set, but with the all-seeing eye as well.
The only snakes I know of are those of Set and those cursed towers. They have spread to every city. 2-3 years ago, it was just another snake cult. Now, everywhere.
In your hand, you hold my light, the gleam in the eye of Set.
An episode of South Park also contains the all-seeing eye in Pyramid. In this episode, Kyle is extremely ill and his patients consult a local mystic for a natural and homeopathic cure for Kyle's ailments. This mystic, whose name is Misinformation, is a fraud and claims that Kyle is improving, while in reality, his condition continues to worsen. In the film Sleepy Hollow, a skeptical investigator is sent to a small town to investigate a series of murders which the locals claim were committed by a headless horseman, despite the notable handicap of being dead. Investigator Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, was originally quite skeptical of the existence or possibility of a headless horseman who rides the night slaying local townfolk. Only after a direct encounter with the headless horseman does he finally shed his disbelief. The villain of the movie, a witch that would later reveal herself, disapproves with Constable Crane's snooping and begins setting traps for the investigator. One of those traps was the evil eye drawn beneath Ichabod's bed, which he discovers by chance. The Cartoon Network series Samurai Jack is about a hero named Samurai Jack who was sent forward in time against his will to find himself in a future created by his arch-enemy. In one of his many adventures, Samurai Jack attempts to break into the villain's many fortresses in order to steal an object with incredible power, powerful enough to send Samurai Jack back to the past so he can prevent the accursed future his nemesis has created. This pyramidal fortress is covered from head to toe with all-seeing eyes. Obviously, the all-seeing eye being repeatedly associated with the villain is consistent with modern-day Satanists, who have equated the eye with Satan. Even though this is the most common use of the symbol, some movies depict the all-seeing eye in the context of Egyptian mythology, where the eye was a superweapon, or the mark of divinity, bore by the chosen one. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Pyramid of Light is a kids' movie with a rather ridiculous premise, where people duel each other with monsters evoked from playing cards. In the cartoon, powerful and evil spirits have been locked away in a series of pieces called the Millennium Items. When all the pieces are brought together, the puzzle forms a pyramid with the all-seeing eye. The story centers around Yu-Gi-Oh!, who is a champion card player because of his 3 Egyptian god cards, which the villain, named Seto Kaiba, attempts to steal from Yu-Gi-Oh! During the duel between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Seto, the Egyptian god of the dead, Anubis, is released from his prison within the pyramid. He then becomes the bearer of the mighty weapon himself. After a drawn-out battle, Anubis is predictably defeated by the story's hero, Yu-Gi-Oh! The all-seeing eye and pyramid are seen so many times in the film, they hardly have a single context aside from being the emblems of a superweapon. Tomb Raider is about a woman named Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, who learns that her late father has left her the key to half of a superweapon called the Triangle of Light. The Triangle of Light is a weapon that was split into 2 pieces long ago and offers its bearer the awesome ability to control time. The main villain, Manfred Powell, is working hard for a group called the Illuminati so that the 2 halves of the triangle may be brought back together during a momentous celestial alignment. Right before the Illuminati succeed in gaining the power of God by bringing together the 2 halves, they are betrayed by Manfred Powell, who himself attempts to bring the 2 pieces of the triangle together. Lara Croft foils his plan and destroys the Triangle of Light so that it could never again endanger the world. In Tomb Raider, the all-seeing eye is both the insignia of the Illuminati and the superweapon they pursue.
The secret society known as the Illuminati. Devious, dangerous men who seek to fulfill an ancient prophecy by reuniting the 2 halves.
In The Mummy Returns, a Tomb Raider of sorts named Rick, played by Brendan Fraser, discovers that Occult intends on resurrecting an ancient army using a bracelet belonging to the Egyptian god Anubis. The cult intends on unleashing and commandeering the army of Anubis. During the movie, a tattoo with the all-seeing eye and pyramid is seen on Rick's arm, and he is later told that this is a symbol of a chosen one, a warrior for God. The prophecy regarding the divine mark reveals itself to be true, as Rick strikes the final blow that sends the army of Anubis back to the underworld. The Man Who Would Be King is about 2 Englishmen who, after being declared criminals by the British Empire, conjure a plan to travel to a far-off and primitive land in the hope that they could arrive and rule the primitive population. The all-seeing eye is first seen on a charm together with the Masonic compass. This Masonic charm, which they first tried to steal, was eventually given to them. When they arrive to the primitive land of Kafiristan, the charm is spotted by the locals and acknowledged as a divine emblem that catapults one of the movie's main characters, Danny, into instant rulership. Disaster begins to befall Danny's kingdom, and soon the native holy men turn against Danny and his rulership.
They're Masons. By the square, by the level, by the plumb rule, by the compasses, and by the all-seeing eye. The craft, Danny, the craft.
Similar to The Man Who Would Be King, Stargate is about a guy named Danny who is given a charm adorned with the all-seeing eye. Danny, along with a chaperone of soldiers, arrive to a primitive land where, just like The Man Who Would Be King, the locals notice the charm Danny was given and mistake it for divinity. Ra, the villain of Stargate, receives word of Danny's arrival and attempts to kill the soldiers that arrived with him. Danny would lead the natives, along with the remaining soldiers, to victory against Ra. The 2009 movie, Men Who Stare at Goats, is about a disbanded group of psychic warriors who once worked for the army, but whose unit was later decommissioned. These psychic soldiers call themselves the Jedi and hold the all-seeing eye and pyramid as their insignia. The villain of the movie, who was once a former member of the Jedi, has revived the disbanded army battalion and plans to use it for more nefarious purposes. Predictably, the good remaining Jedi foil the plot of their old colleague and expose his activities to the world. The movie was obviously borrowing from George Lucas's Jedi, but even George Lucas was borrowing the concept of the Jedi. Jedi comes from the word Dijedi. Dijed meaning spinal column, and Dijedi was the name of mystic priests in ancient Egypt who practiced alchemical magic to give themselves new powers. Then there's Master of Disguise, a movie so bad only a masochist could enjoy it. The film, which is obnoxious beyond all reckoning, centers around a character named Pistachio, who comes from a family line of superheroes who are able to disguise themselves as the person of their choice. In the movie, Pistachio's father is kidnapped and forced to use his powers to do the bidding of the movie's villain, a character with the not-so-subtle name of Devlin. Being generous, I'll spare you the details of Pistachio's mentally handicapped quest to locate and free his enslaved father, and simply remark that the all-seeing eye is used as a symbol of Pistachio's bloodline. Pick of Destiny is about an aspiring rock musician named JB, who learns that all the best rock musicians of the past used the same guitar pick, which had been fashioned from the tooth of the devil by a powerful magician ages ago. He eventually obtains the Pick of Destiny in the Rock and Roll Museum, and by the end does battle with the devil in a rock-out contest. The all-seeing eye is seen on Jack Black's t-shirt and on the headband of Jack's mentor, another band member named KG. Mystery Men is about a group of disorganized wannabe superheroes who realize that it is up to them to save Champion City from a crime wave perpetrated by the movie's disco-obsessed villain, Casanova Frankenstein. After recruiting more members to the superhero franchise, they still find themselves without leadership. The Mystery Men find leadership in a Yoda-like character named the Sphinx. The Sphinx trains and mentors the group until they are ready for the final showdown with the forces of Casanova Frankenstein. The all-seeing eye is spotted on the garment of the group's mentor in the moments leading up to the final battle with Casanova. In the movie Van Helsing, the famous vampire hunter Van Helsing is out to save a town in Eastern Europe from the clutches of Dracula, who is acknowledged as the son of the devil. Upon arrival to the small village, he begins to battle Dracula's followers. Van Helsing is eventually bitten by a werewolf and escapes the human condition by becoming a werewolf himself. Using his newly acquired abilities as a werewolf, he locates and defeats Dracula. The all-seeing eye is seen only once in the movie, at the beginning, where it graces the bandana Van Helsing wears to conceal his identity. The movie The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is about a traveling band of street performers who are more than what they seem. The traveling stage they perform on actually contains another dimension. Those who enter into this alternate dimension can become and experience anything they imagine. In the movie, an old man named Dr. Parnassus has gambled away the soul of his daughter to the movie's villain, a character called Mr. Nick, who collects people's souls. Dr. Parnassus attempts to free his daughter's soul from the wager by providing the villain with other people's souls. The all-seeing eye and pyramid are spotted on the Doctor's traveling stage. It's also worth noting that the villain's name, Mr. Nick, is very close to Old Nick, which has long been used as an alternative name for the devil. This villain is also explicitly called the devil in the movie. National Treasure is about a large, ever-growing treasure that has been handed down to one owner after another for ages. Eventually, the large cache of jewels and precious metals ends up in the hands of a group of knights called the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, portrayed as noble heroes, feared that the treasure would fall into the hands of the British Empire, so they hid the treasure and left a series of clues regarding its whereabouts so that future generations could locate it. The movie's villain, an Englishman named Ian Howe, intends on cashing in on the treasure by following the clues left by the Freemasons. The protagonist, Ben Gates, played by Nicolas Cage, is also on the trail of the great national treasure. In the movie, the all-seeing eye and pyramid were symbols of the Knights Templar, who would later rename themselves the Freemasons. Sometimes the pyramid and all-seeing eye are seen in a movie or TV show without a specific use or context, as if it had no other apparent purpose other than to be seen. The first of these instances is a series of movies called Halloween Town. In 3 out of the 4 Halloween Town movies, the all-seeing eye can be seen on the door of a taxi that acts as the town's cab service. Being There is a 1979 film about a simpleton gardener named Chauncey Gardner. The main character's mannerisms remind the viewer of Dustin Hoffman's Rain Man. But unlike Rain Man and his superb mathematical abilities, Chauncey has no redeeming qualities or special talents aside from being mistaken by other people as profound and insightful. As the movie progresses, the viewer can hardly tell who's dumber, Chauncey or the countless people who have mistaken his simpleton expressions as deep and profound. At the end of the movie, a group of men are burying one of the president's top advisors who took Chauncey under his wing. Mysteriously, the men conclude that Chauncey is the only candidate that could take the place of the old man who has recently passed away. The all-seeing eye is seen on the final resting place of the president's late advisor. Just before the ending credits, a perplexing scene takes place as Chauncey is witnessed walking on water. The 1973 movie Holy Mountain, similar to El Topo, was going for surrealistic and artsy, but only manages to be absurd and blasphemous to boot, where almost every scene is a mockery of Jesus Christ. At the beginning of this senseless tale, Jesus undergoes what appears to be some kind of initiation as he approaches the 2 pillars of the Tree of Life. This is later confirmed when he was told the words, to know, to dare, to want, and to keep silent. Each of these statements represents one of the magical elements, and all 4 are often said during occult initiation rituals. This ridiculous story surrounds the life of Jesus and 8 others as they journey to a place called the Holy Mountain, where it is alleged that one is bestowed with immortality. The all-seeing eye appears in the film as a room where the members of Jesus' group throw their money and egos into the fire and vow to gain immortality by reaching the Holy Mountain. Why is the meaning of the eye confined to so few contexts in so many movies and television shows? And why is the all-seeing eye's uses correspond to satanic and mythological interpretations? The surprising answer is that the aforementioned movies and TV shows are in fact retelling a very real story based on the gods of Egypt, where each time the story is altered slightly so that it does not resemble any previous retelling of Egyptian myth. The sun and all-seeing eye, once symbols of protection and divinity, have now become emblems of evil. Clearly, there are repetitive themes regarding the use and context of the all-seeing eye in popular media. It is also clear that these repetitive themes are mostly in line with satanic and mythological uses of this ancient symbol. Further, the years of 2000 to 2009 saw more use of the all-seeing eye than every instance in the previous 3 decades combined. Most of the time, the all-seeing eye is a villain, like the Egyptian god Set. Other times, it is the mark of a chosen one, like the Egyptian god Horus. And still in other cases, a superweapon, like the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet. If one chooses to mix the perspective of Egyptian mythology with modern-day Satanists, they would come to the conclusion that the all-seeing eye is a superweapon or a position of power in which Satan is the present beholder of. It is often thought that Christianity and the occult are polar opposites, and even though some members of the occult oppose the Bible's moral and philosophical tenets, few in the occult will argue with the Bible's storyline. Not only will those in the occult quote from the Bible freely, but the occult and Christianity share common symbolism. From Genesis' Tree of Life to Revelation's Mark of the Beast, these two belief systems draw from a common tradition of allegory. Because Christianity and the occult share a symbolic tradition, this documentary will examine biblical symbols from the perspective of the occult. In the Bible's book of Genesis, God places Adam and Eve in the midst of the Garden of Eden. Eden, according to the Bible, was a paradise where illness and suffering were unheard of. As the story goes, this paradisical land of Eden had within its borders at least two trees. One tree was called the Tree of Life, and the other tree was called the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. It is said that God told Adam and Eve that he permitted the eating of the fruit which grew from the Tree of Life, but the fruit which grew from the other tree, the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, he did not permit the eating of. He further warned that if the forbidden fruit was eaten, that the guilty party would quote-unquote surely die.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
The two tenants of the garden, Adam and Eve, did not heed this edict for too long. Into the garden crept a serpent who assured Eve that she was indeed free to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that she would not die, and that after eating the fruit her eyes would be opened, and she would be remade as the gods, knowing good and evil.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons.
According to the tale, the serpent told Eve the truth that her eyes would be opened by the forbidden fruit, but lied when he claimed that the fruit wouldn't kill her. After their disobedience, both Adam and his wife would be expelled from paradise and forced to live a life of toil and suffering east of the garden. Christians have long speculated the true meaning of this story, and some Christians were content in believing that the fruit and the story as a whole were literal. Even though modern Christians continue to speculate this story's meaning with less rigid interpretations, the occult perspective remains largely ignored. The Kabbalah, which is a set of ancient Hebrew texts, describe a framework of the universe which also contain two trees. The first of these trees is the tree of life, and the second tree is called the Qliphoth. According to Kabbalistic lore, the universe is composed of a series of dimensions, each called Sephirah, where energy that flows from the highest heaven slowly solidifies as it reaches each node until it arrives in the material world as matter. The roadmap for this descending energy is called the Tree of Life. Beginning at Kether, the highest knowable dimension, a pure and primal form of energy is given shape and polarity as it descends until finally reaching the physical world, called Malkuth. Malkuth, at the very bottom of the Tree of Life, is the material universe where humanity's day-to-day experiences take place. According to the Kabbalah, however, the whole of human experience is not limited to the material world, but also include the higher, more heavenly realms. It is said that the human physical body is nothing more than a mechanical perceiver for the higher and true selves. Between man and his true self, often called higher self or true will, lies two veils, and these two veils divide the consciousness of man into essentially two parts, his higher self and his lower self. The lower self represents humanity's primal and animal drives. It is here where man's ego and lusts can be found. Above the lower self can be found the higher self, and this higher self, which is often called one's guardian angel, represents man's divine nature. The whole situation can be likened to a video game. When playing a video game, two copies of oneself are brought into existence. The first copy is the true you, your true self, the one sitting in a chair with controller in hand. The second copy, your lower self, often called your lower will or ego, is the one inside the video game, jumping, shooting, and ducking inside the 3D computer-generated world. The video game version of yourself is nothing more than a perceiver for your true self, whose flesh cannot exist inside the electronic confines of a computer game. There is, however, another tree in the Kabbalistic garden, the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth, sometimes called the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil by modern occultists, is an underworld of demons. The Qliphoth is said to be identical to the Tree of Life, where it exists below Malkuth. This infernal tree is said to be ruled by the fallen angel Samael, who is the Kabbalistic equivalent to Satan from the Bible. It is the Tree of Life, along with its counterpart, the Qliphoth, that is the origin of the concept of 7 hells and 7 heavens.
Below the tree, proceeding from Malkuth, is the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil, which is between the Tree of Life and the world, or Asaya, or shells, represented by the coiled-up dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, being the 7 infernal palaces and the 10 Averse Sephiroth.
Occultists claim that just as man has a divine copy of himself, called the guardian angel, who exists in the higher realms of the Tree of Life, he also has an infernal copy of himself, called the guardian demon. Expectedly, this so-called guardian demon takes residence in the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. Both guardian angels and guardian demons are called tutelary spirits, which are spirits assigned to a human at birth. Muslims, similar to occultists, also believe that each human is assigned an angel and a demon at birth. A large part of occult practice involves contacting or uniting with one's tutelary spirit. The most common operation is often called knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel. Coming into contact with one's guardian angel is not only one of the occult's highest achievements, but a necessary step in gaining mastery over magic itself. After a series of rituals designed to help the spirit slowly climb the Tree of Life, you will finally come into contact with the true you that exists in the heavenly realms. After achieving unity with one's tutelary spirit, the magician not only experiences ever-increasing psychic and intellectual ability, but most importantly, true illumination. Yoga, which literally means unity, is based on similar principles of connecting to one's ultimate divine form. This process of using magic to increase one's psychic and intellectual powers is called psychic development and has long been known as alchemy. Initiation is another term often used to describe spiritual development. In movies like The Last Airbender, the Christ child is learning to master new powers as he gains mastery over the 4 magical elements: air, water, earth, and fire. The movie also contains the 4 nations of elementals acknowledged by all occultists. According to the official story, alchemy is the controlled transmutation of one metal to another. The very utterance of the word alchemy invokes in the commoner mental imagery of a medieval eccentric foolishly attempting to turn lead into gold. Magicians, both modern and ancient, have nurtured and enjoyed this misconception. As usual, these magicians cleverly conceal the truth of their work in symbols, while the profane tried in vain on account of taking the symbolic literal. The metals of alchemy have absolutely no relation to the physical manifestation of the metal. The minerals of alchemy have absolutely no relation to the physical mineral whose name it bared. The answer, in part, is to be found in the hexagram and the Tree of Life. The hexagram, falsely called the Star of David, is only connected to the Jewish people because of the Kabbalah. The hexagram is actually a symbol for the 7 of the 9 Sephiroth above the material plane. It is essentially a symbol of the 7 magical planets: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Each of these 7 planets are associated with and correspond to a particular metal. Further, each of those 7 of 9 Sephiroth above Malkuth also correspond to a particular metal. With this in mind, the hexagram and all of its correspondences can be nearly superimposed on the Tree of Life, with only the sphere of Binah, which represents Saturn, ruining the perfect superimposition. Similar to how the fruit from the Tree of Life can increase one's power, so too can fruit from the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil, because it is the realm of demons, including your own demon. If you recall, Adam and Eve, after eating from the Tree of Knowledge, knew they were naked and made aprons for themselves with fig leaves. Could this be the reason why Masons wear aprons? Is the apron a symbolic reference to the fig leaves of Eden? Do they use the apron to express in a coded manner that they themselves have eaten the forbidden fruit and gained its powers? The tree of life is further divided into 3 pillars. The left pillar is the feminine pillar, represented by the moon or salt. The middle pillar is androgynous and is represented by both the planet and metal Mercury. And the right pillar is masculine, represented by the sun and the mineral sulfur. This symbolism is plainly apparent in almost every depiction of an alchemist or alchemical magic, because somewhere in the picture will be both the sun and the moon, the very essence of uniting opposites.
The ancient alchemists were prone to veil their writings in obscure symbolisms, mythology, and various blinds. In this case, the principle of sulfur is not common sulfur or brimstone. Salt did not indicate common table salt, nor did mercury reflect the matter found in thermometers, quicksilver. There was an analog between these, but definitely not a one-to-one relationship. This blind hindered many a budding alchemist.
The cover for the book Self-Initiation into the Golden Dawn Tradition says a mouthful with eyes to see. Below, a man blindfolded, being led by a white rabbit through 2 pillars and a long journey in the darkness, finally reaching the illuminated peak of the holy mountain, clearly symbolized by the unification of opposites. The picture brings to mind Alice following the white rabbit and falling into the rabbit hole, or even Neo from the movie The Matrix. In the movie, Neo is contacted by the rebels of the machines and told that the white rabbit will lead him to the truth of the Matrix. And similar to Guardian Angel lore, Neo is freed from his blindness and awakens to discover his true self, his true body. Like the example I illustrated earlier, Neo learns he was simply playing a video game the whole time. Both white and black magicians put great emphasis on gaining contact with one's holy guardian angel. Aleister Crowley, the most famous magician of the 20th century, made perfectly clear the importance of unity with one's holy guardian angel.
It should never be forgotten for a single moment that the central and essential work of the magicians is the attainment of the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Once he has achieved this, he must of course be left entirely in the hands of that angel, who can be invariably and inevitably relied upon to lead him to the further great step, crossing of the abyss and the attainment of the grade of the Master of the Temple.
Aleister Crowley, along with most magicians, both modern and ancient, believed that without acquiring contact with one's guardian angel, the practitioner would be left wide open to endless deceptions from the spirit world. Aleister Crowley, who himself was a black magician and Satanist, makes an interesting remark regarding the difference between white magic and black magic.
As was said at the opening of the 2nd chapter, the single supreme ritual is the attainment of the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. It is the raising of the complete man in a vertical straight line. Any deviation from this line tends to become black magic. Any other operation is black magic.
Most black magicians revel in muddying the lines between right and wrong, white magic and black magic. Even white magicians claim that the difference between white magic and black magic is solely based on the intention of the practitioner. But Aleister Crowley, in his book Magic in Theory and Practice, makes a rather all-encompassing statement regarding the line between. Here, he suggests that any magic regardless of intention or desired outcome, is black magic if it is not in pursuit of attaining knowledge of one's guardian angel. Case closed. According to Crowley's definition, even the most benign love spells are classified as black magic. It is indeed interesting that Crowley's comment would parallel the edict given to man in the Garden of Eden, that the only thing that is truly permitted is eating from the tree of life. The movie Gamer depicts in a subtle way contact with one's true self. In the movie, real humans who are strictly confined to a gaming environment are puppeted by other people who exist outside the gaming environment. During the movie, the puppet and the puppeteer finally have a direct conversation. The mark of the beast is yet another biblical term which has been subject to endless speculation and interpretation. The term is found in the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the Bible. The Bible suggests that there will come a time when the Antichrist, also called the beast, will force all people to bear his mark, or his name, or the number of his name, in order to buy or sell goods.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Because of its obscurity, this single passage has produced endless hours of speculation, and most of this speculation is in regards to the mark of the beast, rather than the means by which people will wear the name of the beast, or the number of the beast, which is 666. The occult, like many Christian prophecy speculators, have given the actual mark of the beast more attention than the method by which people will one day be forced to wear the name or number of the Antichrist. The mark of the beast, outside of occult circles, is commonly interpreted as a new kind of monetary exchange where computer chips serve as a form of identity in a cash-free society. This interpretation, where the mark of the beast is a computer chip embedded into one's body, is not, however, shared by members of the occult. In occult circles, the mark of the beast, sometimes called the mark of the devil or the mark of Cain, is a power granted by the devil which allows those with the mark to shapeshift from humans to hideous creatures. The most common description of those who are endowed with the mark of the beast parallel what are often called werewolves or lycans. It is said that the mark of the beast is the darkest form of spiritual alchemy, where those who desired it were forced to bargain their eternal souls to Satan. After being endowed with the mark of the beast, the individual can shapeshift at will. Those who claim to have been given the mark of the beast describe it as a form of self-deification, where they rise above the limits of human clay and are reborn in the image of the devil. The reason that the mark of the beast is also called the mark of Cain is that members of Satanism freely connect biblical Cain with the Antichrist, and further, they associate the mark that Cain was given with the mark of the beast itself. In the Bible, Cain, who was said to be the firstborn son of Adam and Eve, killed his brother Abel, after which God placed a mark on Cain and sent him away from his family. This mark placed on Cain was not only punishment, but prevented other people from killing him.
Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass, that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden.
The occult not only associates Cain and the mark placed upon him with the Antichrist and his mark, but also claim that Cain was in fact the son of Satan and the whore of Babylon, or Satan and Eve, rather than the son of Adam and Eve. Equinox, an Aleister Crowley publication, states,
Their prince is Lams, Samael, the angel of poison and of death. His wife is the harlot, or woman of whoredom, and united they are called the beast. Thus the infernal trinity is completed, which is, so to speak, the averse and caricature of the supernal creative one. Samael is considered to be identical with Satan. In the first place, there is again the woman riding on the bull, which is the reflection of Babylon that rideth on the beast. And also there is an Assyrian legend of a woman with a fish, and also there is a legend of Eve and the serpent, for Cain was the child of Eve and the serpent, and not Eve and Adam. And therefore, when he had slayed his brother, who was the first murderer, having sacrificed living things to his demon, had Cain the mark upon his brow, which is the mark of the beast spoken of in the Apocalypse, and is the sign of initiation.
Michael W. Ford, a modern satanic author, makes similar connections between Cain, his mark, and the Antichrist.
I conjure thee, Cain, who is the earthly devil, who is the master of spirits, encircle and awaken within my flesh, my blood, my mind. By thy depths of which I will walk herein, shall I become reborn, in the name and mark of the devil, whom I swear my spirit unto. I am myself the Redeemer and the bringer of the infernal pact, which holds no bounds nor mortal strain, yet my desires shall be filled by the eye within the blackened triangle. You will never be able to turn back from the path, as the lonely path of godhood shall be marked upon your brow as the mark of Cain. As you are shadow, allow yourself to grow close to this infernal king and enter his essence. Open your astral eyes as this shadow, and understand you may take any form you wish. You are vampire, incubus, set-like, and immortal in essence. You become as Ahriman, the infernal king who shapes the world according to his desire. You may communicate and seek various points of congress with all goetic spirits in the dreaming plane. Your gate is the dream. This is the Sabbat body of which you shall go forth. Lilith drank the blood of man, and bred her children from their seed, taken from nocturnal congress with those sleeping. Desert travelers were drained of life, and their children were given to her vampiric children to grow strong. Lilith opened the gates of Arazura, called the secret place, and the great shadow Ahriman came before me. I took the mark of the beast, and Lilith's mark, being the bloodied coal. Lilith taught me the arts of the vampire, and prepared my spirit and flesh to walk between the world. The true mark of Ahriman was given, and I passed between the light to the shadows. Upon waking in the sand, I could face again the sun, yet see equally as well in moonlight. I mark myself with the kiss of the devil, that I may transform in spirit unto the phantom shade of night. I shall become the wolf. The spirit takes the form that it so desires at the moment, joins with familiars and other demonic forms, and goes forth to a place which centralizes the imagination in an infernal sense. The devil is by this standard a mirror of the liberated mind, awaiting confirmation of self-belief and the desire to becoming something else. Remember, throughout history, the devil has always been a shapeshifter. No common form may stay for too long. Cain is the first sorcerer and shapeshifter who drifted from his tribe to become as God. He in turn was taught witchcraft and sorcery deeper by his spiritual mother, Lilith. It was soon after that Cain would wander the earth forever in spirit form, through the blood and psyche of his initiates, and manifest through their deeds and work. The touch of Azazel brings a fire to the clay, which then allows that genius to shape his flesh in dream and waking, according to his desire.
The Necronomicon, a book commonly thought of as the fictional tales of H.P. Lovecraft, also contain a reference to the shapeshifters who bear the mark of the beast.
Know, fifthly, that the worshippers of Tiamat are abroad in the world, and will give fight to the magician. Lo, they have worshipped the serpent from ancient times, and have always been with us. And they are to be known by their seeming human appearance, which has the mark of the beast upon them, as they change easily into the shapes of animals, and haunt the nights of men, and by their odor, which comes of burning incenses unlawful to the worship of the Elder One.
Even if you believe the Necronomicon to be complete fiction, what is important here is the context by which the reference to the mark of the beast was used. Repeatedly is the term used to describe Satan worshippers who have the appearance of being human, but in fact can shapeshift into the forms of animals. In the movie Nightbreed, the main character becomes obsessed with a hidden community of shapeshifters that live underground, beneath a cemetery. Upon arriving, he is bitten by a red-colored monster who refers to himself as the Beast. After this, he begins to transform into a werewolf that thirsts for blood. After gaining entry to the underground community, he is initiated and welcomed into their tribe. Similar to the story of Cain, who was given the mark that prevents anyone from slaying him, his new condition as a werewolf makes it virtually impossible to kill him. In the movie, a character named Baphomet, the Baptizer, was the founder of this underground community of monsters. The Bible also associates the Antichrist with the personage called the Beast of the Sea. This character is so called because he is not only associated with the beast, who is the Antichrist, but also because he is said to rise up out of the sea. Its symbolic description is a scarlet-colored beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, and 10 crowns upon its 7 heads. The color scarlet is simply red, with a slight tinge of orange.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its horns 10 crowns, and upon its heads the names of blasphemy.
The Bible also describes this multi-headed beast being ridden by a harlot wearing the colors scarlet and purple. This woman is described as the whore of Babylon and the mother of abominations.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
The Bible identifies the 10 horns upon the 7 heads of the beast as 10 kings who will rule alongside the Antichrist.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
One Bible passage suggests that the sea, quote-unquote, is nothing but symbolism for the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit, often referred to as the abyss, appears to be another place or dimension where the beast and the multitude of demons reside.
Beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
Another Bible passage implies that, quote-unquote, the waters is symbolism for the many nations.
And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
The beliefs of many in the occult coincide closer with the first interpretation of the sea. In the occult, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns represent the Qliphoth, or the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where the 7 heads represent the 7 hells, and the 10 horns representing the 10 rulers of the underworld. On the tree of life lies a region called the abyss, and is often called the 11th unofficial Sephiroth, called Da'at. If you recall, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the Qliphoth, was identical to and below the tree of life. This alternate tree is commonly referred to as an averse tree of life, averse meaning hostile, against, and opposite.
Tempted by the fruit of the tree of knowledge, stooped down to the Qliphoth. The columns were unsupported, and the Sephirotic scheme was shattered, and with it fell Adam the Mycoprosopus. Then arose the great dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, cutting by his folds Malkuth from the Sephiroth, and linking it to the kingdom of the shells. The 7 lower Sephiroth were cut off from the 3 supernals in Da'at. The floor is black, having upon it also a triangle enclosed with the heptagram, bearing the titles of the averse and evil Sephiroth, as shown by the great red dragon with 7 heads.
Let's return to Israel Regardie, a knowledgeable magician and prolific occult author, regarding his interpretation of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the beast with 7 heads.
Below the tree, proceeding from Malkuth, is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is between the tree of life and the world of Asaya or shells, represented by the coiled-up dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, being the 7 infernal palaces and the 10 averse Sephiroth. The great goddess Eve, tempted by the fruits of the tree of knowledge, whose branches tend upwards to the 7 lower Sephiroth, but also downwards to the kingdom of shells, reached down to them, and the 2 pillars were left unsupported. Then the Sephirotic tree was shattered. She fell, and with her fell the great Adam. And the great red dragon arose with his 7 heads and 10 horns, and Eden was desolated. And the folds of the dragon enclosed Malkuth, and linked it to the kingdom of shells. And the heads of the dragon rose, and the 7 lower Sephiroth, even up to Da'at, at the feet of Alma Elohim. Before you are the 10 averse and evil Sephiroth of the Qliphotic or shells, collected into 7 palaces, wherein the apocalyptic mystery of the 7 heads and 10 horns.
The Whore of Babylon, like the Mark of the Beast, has itself received endless speculation and interpretation from Christian prophecy speculators. And like the beast himself, the Whore of Babylon has often been equated with a nation, church, or some other human power structure. The most common of these speculations is that the Whore of Babylon represents the Catholic Church, and, predictably, this interpretation is shared by many of those who are not Catholic but Protestant, most notably the Seventh-day Adventists. Catholics, meanwhile, claim that the Whore of Babylon is in fact the city of Jerusalem, citing the great Jewish power which has risen in recent times. Jehovah's Witnesses declare that all other forms of Christendom is part of the apostate religion of Babylon the Great. Here is what the Bible says about the Whore of Babylon.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns.
Babylon the Great is described as an entity or city which is drunk from the blood of the saints, and rules over the kings of the earth, and uses sorcery to do so. It is also said that the beast which she rides upon will one day betray her and destroy her. Adding to the respectable list of interpretations for this most lambasted entity, the occult interprets the whore in a similar fashion as it interprets the beast, a singular, particular being with a power structure beneath it. Occultists associate the Whore of Babylon with a number of mythological goddesses. In Egypt, she is Isis or Nut. In Greece, she is Hecate or Astarte. In India, she is Kali. Lilith, Hilarion, Az, Sophia, and Tiamat are also frequently used names for this goddess. Interestingly, the Whore of Babylon is commonly equated with the aforementioned Eve from the book of Genesis. She is often spoke of as the good and faithful wife, widowed, and finally becoming a host to some evil presence, and becoming evil herself. In both the Bible as well as the occult, this goddess is crowned with many titles: the Whore of Babylon, Babylon the Great, Mother of Harlots, Mother of Abominations, the Scarlet Woman, and so forth. She is also given titles like the Bride of Chaos and the Bride of the Beast, because it is said that she is now the consort of the Antichrist, rather than Adam. The occult not only associate her with vampires, but claims that she is the mother of a multitude of demons. It is also claimed by the occult, as well as the Bible, that Babylon will be, at least initially, in firm control of the beast. Those involved with witchcraft and Wicca worship the quote-unquote Mother Goddess, unaware that the Whore of Babylon has similar titles like the Mother Goddess, the Great Mother, and Mother Earth. Further, this goddess is repeatedly associated with the moon, the number 7, the number 3, and the owl. Jack Whiteside Parsons, the brilliant rocket scientist and black magician, had much to say regarding his encounters with the Scarlet Woman. John Parsons, sometimes known as Jack Parsons, claims that he evoked the goddess and engaged in sexual congress with her. The goddess, according to Parsons, claims that she arrives in the midst of humanity in the form of avatars, using one body after another till her will, and the will of the beast, is fulfilled.
Glory unto the Scarlet Woman, Babylon, the mother of abominations, that rideth upon the beast. For she hath spilt their blood in every corner of the earth, and lo, she hath mingled it in the cup of her whoredom. And I, Belarion, Antichrist, do lift up my voice and prophesy, and I say, I shall bring all men to the law of the beast 666, and in his law I shall conquer the world. And within 7 years of this time, Babylon, the Scarlet Woman Hilarion, will manifest among ye, and bring this my work to its fruition.
Aleister Crowley has also made numerous references to the whore of Babylon as a singular entity who is both the mother and the concubine of the Antichrist.
Yes, I, the beast, my scarlet whore bestriding me, naked and crowned, drunk on her golden cup of fornication, boasting herself my bedfellow, have trodden her in the marketplace, and roared this word that every woman is a star. This is the secret of the Holy Grail, that is the sacred vessel of Our Lady, the Scarlet Woman, Babylon, the mother of abominations, the bride of chaos, that rideth upon our Lord, the beast. Thou shalt drain out thy blood, that is thy life, into the golden cup of her fornication. Thou shalt mingle thy life with the universal life. Thou shalt keep not back one drop.
Of all the occult writers, it is Michael Ford, as usual, who has the most to say about the satanic perspective regarding the whore of Babylon.
Babylon is the Kabbalistically restored spelling of the biblical Babylon, the great whore. This goddess is in union with the beast 666 in the book of Revelation. Aleister Crowley restored this goddess to her aspect of holding the cup of her fornications, from which the blood of the saints dwelled. Those who traverse and persevere through the path of Thelema, or holy magic, might offer their blood to the great cup, opening themselves to the glory of Babylon. The queen of the witches, Sabat, is none other than Lilith, known in Persian mythology as or Je, the harlot who is the embodiment of sexual power. She is known through many cultures, Hebrew, Persian, and European as Hecate, the triple goddess of the crossroads, who is mother of death, shades, witchcraft, and necromancy. The ones who fell with Lucifer were taught sexual magic and procreation by Az, Lilith, who resided near the Red Sea in caves. Az resided also in the blackest depths of hell. She instructed demons, monsters, and other Druge the art of sexual copulation and how to spawn demons. Az Lilith was the mother of succubi and incubi, demons who held sexual congress with humans, and with their emissions spawned other shadow forms.
Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, the mythologies derived from ancient Mesopotamia, and of course the Bible are the primary traditions from which occultists tend to draw symbolism. As you can see, Satanists and occultists in general not only use biblical symbolism, but reinforce it with elaborate details and explanations. In fact, it is those involved with natural magic, like Wicca, that are most likely to disregard the biblical tradition whereas white magicians and black magicians who practice ritual magic acknowledge the Bible as a viable source of practical information, debating only the Bible's philosophical principles. In this regard, can Christianity and Satanism be thought of as opposite sides of the same coin?